want to dig a little deeper on this issue of journalistic credibility because you, of course, go on to describe an incident with Donald Trump, who was visiting the New York Times office at the time, and he said on the record that he was going to impose a 45% tariff on all Chinese goods, and you reported it, and then Mr. Trump does what Mr. Trump does. He denied ever having said it. And here's the next excerpt. "That's wrong," Trump said. "They were wrong. It's the New York Times. They are always wrong." So, you write, "We released the audio of Trump calling for the 45% tariff on Chinese goods. While there had been many venal politicians around the world whom I deplored, Trump was unique. He was a con artist. I had never known an American politician so uneducated about policy, so self-absorbed, and so deceitful." Okay, how do you fairly cover someone who, in your own words, is so awful and deceitful?
So traditionally in journalism, and as you know, we honor two principles. We try to be fair and we try to convey the truth. And fairness, we attempt to master by quoting people on each side. And normally that works to project truth, that, people can figure out what is going on. But it doesn't always work. And it didn't work in the civil rights era, for example, to quote Martin Luther King Jr., on the one hand, and a civil rights leader and a governor like George Wallace on the other. The public didn't understand where the truth lay. And likewise, I think we in the media in 2016, when Trump was running, I think we let them down. We quoted people on each side. Trump was good for cable television in particular. He brought in eyeballs. And we didn't convey the truth, which was what we knew, which was that he was lying out the kazoo. So how do we do that? I think it's what we do as foreign correspondents when we cover Vladimir Putin, when we cover Xi Jinping. We quote them. We say that Putin says he isn't invading Ukraine, but that he's engaging in a special military operation, et cetera. But we also make sure that our audiences understand what Putin is actually doing in Ukraine, or what Xi Jinping is doing in terms of domestic repression. And, there's no algorithm that can precisely explain how to do that, but we have our paramount responsibility is to convey the truth to our audiences as we best understand it, with a lot of humility about our ability to master that truth. And I think that is going to be a real challenge for the American media this year.
Well, okay, let's follow up on that, because I take your point of what you're trying to convey there, but we don't live in a world where the truth often matters. We live in a world where everybody's got their own version of the truth, and, we only need look at the Trump trial just ended, where he's found guilty on 34 counts, and his base is even more firmly in his corner. They're more convinced of your culpability in somehow lying about his circumstances. And he may actually have gone up in popularity despite having been found guilty of all those counts. How do we, this seems like a nonsensical world in which we're living in right now. How do we even navigate these waters?
So I think it's hard. And in the short term, we will not be persuasive much of the time. But I have seen that, over time, truth does have a way of rising to the top. I think it helps when journalists don't come across as disdainful to working class Americans or disrespectful toward people of faith. I think we sometimes lose people for those reasons. I think that, again, kind of goes back a little bit to this gulf between the educated and those who are less educated. So I think, we can try harder. I would like to see, I think that when there are conservative opinion pieces in the New York Times escorting my own liberal views, I think they give my liberal views more credibility. I think they actually help me get that message across. But it's hard. And this year is going to be a particular test of that. And there are, I think the best of journalism this year is some of the best that I've ever seen in my life. But the bad journalism out there is as bad as I've ever seen it.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.